Welcome to episode 41 of a middling running podcast type thing. Whatever this is, I can't say longest running episodic, that doesn't work. Middle running episodic, there is an episodic element to it. That's about as far as we can all agree. And then beyond that, it's really up to your interpretation, is what it comes down to. On this episode, we're going to talk about how to define a loss inside of a card collecting kind of situation. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to find out that, as it turns out, there is a direct connection between Eric and the AFL Grand Final. What is that connection? We're going to find out tonight on this episode of the BIC and probably later on to be renamed podcast. So for the people who got the video side of it, you're welcome for the staring eyes of Brett Favre. And also, thank you to Eric for learning those guitar riffs on such short notice. That was some fine work by you. That's probably your best work so far.
3 days notice. Never picked up a guitar in my life. 3 days notice. I thought I did pretty well.
Those eyes are like, for the viewer, that sets the tone of the 5% more seriousness, more intelligent that comes about of these Monday nights. It like locks you in. The viewers are going to love it. They're going to look at them and just going to be zoned in and locked in. Great job putting it together and playing the tunes, Eric. That was awesome, man.
Just saying. That death stare couldn't be. That death stare was definitely 5% more serious. I felt it. Absolutely. I felt it. It was definitely there. Now I did want to touch on Will
as an example of the 5% rule and how much more mature we are and less angry I am. I just wanted to say that here because we're filming this on Monday night for a Tuesday release. Here I only dislike Name. I don't hate him on Mondays.
So less hatred. 5% less hatred.
5% less hatred. I just strongly dislike him.
Valid. I think that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Now, before we get into what's in our mind, after our appreciation of the staring eyes of Favre and also Eric's guitar riffs, beautifully done. One thing I'll cover is I'll touch on one of the comments left on our last episode. Thank you all for the comments. All comments and questions are welcome, certainly. And if there's a really good one, maybe I'll mention it in the next episode. So just word to the wise. I do want to give the real Palmer. Unfortunately, by the way, I don't like the way that when you're actually looking at it inside of the YouTube, it shows you the nickname or the name in one side, and then it shows you the @ thing. So I have to kind of connect the two. So I apologize, but I've got your comment here in front of it. The comment was left. It says, reporting on drama between wrestling card collectors could be a weekly segment, in my opinion. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That'd be funny in its own way. And it's like, when I read that comment, I'm like, it's not half a bad idea. I go, maybe. I'll think about it. We're not going to do it this week, but it wasn't a bad idea. And you're certainly not wrong. I want to make clear you're not wrong. And thank you for this week's comment. And again, comments or questions are welcome. And if there's a good one, we'll touch on it in the next episode. Now, there's a couple of things that are on my mind. I don't want to hog the whole thing, but there's a couple that are kind of interconnected. But as we go, I'll let you guys have a turn. But first, I want to start off with congratulating the Collingwood Magpies for being the premiership champions of Aussie Rules Football, footy. And there is, as I promised, an Eric connection to this. So not only the excitement of Collingwood, by the way, it was actually a really good game. I did enjoy watching it. I watched it after the Friday night live stream. It was at midnight Eastern, so it was on Saturday morning here in these parts, and I watched the grand final. It was excellent. Very good game. Nail-biter right down to the end, and it was a one-goal game. Basically squeaked it out, Collingwood. Congratulations for those folks. But there is an Eric Sanderson to Orr connection to the AFL Grand Final, believe it or not. Because do you know what the pre-game entertainment was in the AFL Grand Final? In front of 100,025 strong. Do you know what it was, Eric?
I do know.
Do you know?
I believe I do.
Were they rocking and rolling all night, Eric? And every day?
I think they were then partying every day.
Kiss, the band Kiss, was there in Australia playing the pregame show of the AFL Grand Final. Just saying, there is an Eric connection there. As a member of Kiss Army, Eric was probably there headbanging the whole way.
I was way off. I was going to say cyclocross.
That would have been good. That would have been good. That would have been good, Bobbles. But no. Like, there was an actual connection. There was a musical connection, like specifically. Eric is a proud member of the Kiss Army. I knew as soon as I saw it, I was like, "What the heck?" And for the people seeing the video, you're getting video evidence of what I'm talking about here. Eric is very much in the Kiss Army thing, and as soon as I heard that they were doing it, I was like, how interesting, how interesting. And now I do think, Eric, it was a bit much when Gene Simmons and some of the band members started modifying some of their lyrics. I understand that Australia was a prison colony at one point, but I think calling it, I want to steal your shit all night and every day, I think that's probably a little inappropriate. I think that might have been a little, pandering a little bit too much to the history there.
They are extremely popular in Australia, so I could see why they would want to, make fans happy there.
Yes, but now you all know the Eric connection to the AFL Grand Final. It's like, there you go. It's like, and again, congratulations, Collingwood, on your premiership victory. And I did enjoy
I'm
the game.
oblivious to what this actually is, but is it rugby?
So it's Aussie Rules Football, which is an offshoot. I would say it's an offshoot of rugby because they do have a professional rugby league there as well. I would say Aussie Rules is a lot more high octane. It's a lot higher scoring, and also there's a lot of action, but a lot of physicality. So you take elements of it, but it doesn't bog down necessarily the same way that rugby does. And you get tired just watching it because they do a lot of running and they crash into each other. A guy was out in the concussion in like the first 5 minutes.
I was confused because you said Aussie Rules Football, and I know football is an alternative term for soccer, but then you said goals, and I was like, well, I don't think that's the Australian Soccer League, so
no.
I was confused for a moment.
Yeah, so it's an offshoot of rugby, a lot more high octane in terms of it. The field is really ridiculous in terms of the size of the field, the way they structure it. It is very physical because you can crash into each other. There's no pads, there's no helmets. That's why I said, like, one of the players got basically concussed within the first couple of minutes. It was out for the rest of the game. Like, they're crashing into each other. There's definitely a lot of physicality to it. So if you like that, the game's good. It is offensive. There is a lot of high scoring. It's very athletic because these guys are running miles and miles and miles and crashing into each other, it's madness. And it's an ongoing, the clock is going. As again, it is a very fun game to watch if you do enjoy it. And again, it is high scoring. So you're getting plenty of action. And again, they filled the stadium capacity, 100,000 strong, watching that game with the whole pomp and circumstance. They put on a big show. They put on a good show, and it was a lot of fun for me. Turned out to be a great game as well. So pretty good.
So they had as many fans at one game as like the Cleveland Browns get in a full season?
Basically, yes.
Yes. That's pretty impressive.
Yes.
I don't think Cleveland gets that many in a full season.
But that was my point.
Yeah. It was pretty exciting. Look, I'm not going to lie. It was as a casual observer who enjoys it, I just think the fact that it also happened to be a 1-goal game was excellent. It was a nail-biter, multiple lead changes all the way through. It was back and forth. Both teams were competing. And, yeah, it came right down to the wire. Basically, it could have changed one more time at any time there towards the tail end. So, congratulations to the Collingwood and their fans. And then good on them until next season. So, I want to touch on that. So, now bringing it back over into the American football side of things. We'll touch on that for a moment.
I prefer not to.
Fair enough. But look, I'll touch on it this way. I have a stat for you guys that is a lot of fun. As far as the Packers and their suck, they have less than 300 yards rushing on the season. They allowed 211 yards in this past game against the Lions. They have less than 300 yards on the ground in 4 games. They allowed 211. That is all I need to say about that. That's about it. That's just thought I would point that out. As soon as I looked at the stat, I was like, "Ooh, that seems bad. That seems suboptimal." So basically, they have no running game to speak of. So the other teams know exactly what they're going to do, and they can't stop a run to save their lives. But other than that, it's all good.
Go ahead and speak on your team, Eric.
Being that my next birthday, I will be 50. I remember very well the years that most people want to forget here in New England, where we were the perennial 1-15 team over and over and over again. Our starting quarterbacks were Hugh Millen, and I can't even remember some of the other losers that we had. So I am seeing this year's Patriots team being another one of those, 1 in 15 type of seasons where, when they finally win one, and because they have one win, but I remember very clearly the Patriots had one of the seasons. Dick McPherson was the coach, and when the Patriots finally won, it was as if they won the Super Bowl. The team went bananas, the coaches went bananas, and it's like, guys, you're 1 in 15. So I think the Patriots are heading back to that type of level. Unfortunately, you can't be a dynasty forever. Dynasties come and go, and I think we're going to be back to the 1 in 15 years over the next few.
Now that's funny because I don't remember the dynasty thing at all. All I remember was them losing an appliance. Those were fun memories. I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed nostalgically thinking about that last week. I think it was Bobbles. I think last week we were thinking about that. It was fun memories. Good times. Mm-hmm. Good times. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Bobbles. Do you want to say anything about your team before we move on?
My team won. We beat our old city, Cleveland, where the Ravens moved from. My fantasy team sucked. Well, actually, let me take that back. My fantasy team did okay, but the guy I went against decided to have a Houston receiver that put up 50 points and Dallas's defense that went absolutely stupid. And yeah, so it was one of those where you run into a guy whose team's not that good, but his players do the absolute best they possibly could do. It was one of those weeks. But yeah, the NFL has been interesting this year. We have, Taylor Swift is the most popular story.
And I think rightfully so. Frankly, I think we haven't had enough Taylor Swift coverage. I, for one, think we should at least double. There should be a camera on Taylor Swift the whole time. And I think you should shrink the game down to like about this size, just in the corner, and make sure we're paying closely attention to Taylor Swift because during every single one of these primetime games.
And the Chiefs could really, they could be smart and just have her do the halftime show every week.
Fantastic. I think it's a great idea.
Just, if she's going to be there, put her to use, right?
It seems, look, I just assumed that's the reason how Kiss got that gig. They just happened to be around. They're like, could you guys, do you mind? Do you have something? Could you play a thing? It was like when Eric, did the intro for us. Like, hey, could you put something together? Hold on, let me see what I can do. And it worked out. But it was great.
Outside of football,
bad mouth Kiss, Carlos. Come on, don't cross the line.
Outside of football, I lost another eBay auction. I was very sad. I am not having a good. I am attempting to actually buy sports cards, people, and
you're attempting to spend money, which is even more shocking.
And it's just not happening. There was an auction last night on a card that I really want. We discussed it, I believe, Friday night, and unfortunately, it ended after midnight because the seller was overseas. I threw a bid on before I went to bed. I woke up. Sorry, you missed this. I lost by $1. But anyway, I guess on to the next one. So
fair. It's actually it's funny because I think I'll talk about one or two auction related things. By the way, quick side tangent since you brought up something that struck me. The thing about you trying to spend money made me think about this week because right now we're in the midst of an October heat wave, and today I experienced something that I've never experienced before to my recollection. And I'll quickly caveat this by saying I'm not one of those Canadians who wears t-shirt and shorts when the snow is up to my knees because we've got those sickos. They're like, oh, it's still warm. Yeah, exactly. You're a freak. But the point is, I'm not one of those people. I'm one of those people where as soon as the temperature drops below about 72, Fahrenheit degrees, I'll switch to long sleeves. Today I was in t-shirt and shorts. I was like, never mind. Can't even it's October the 2nd. What the hell is this nonsense? It was fine. It was good. It was good for a walk, but it's warm today. Jeez. Now, speaking of it, we are entering the spooky season. We've entered into October. It is now the spooky season approaches. And speaking of which, this is a quick story, and Eric was privy to this one. I did laugh. Our AI Spotify overlords. They know a thing or two because I shot him a text. I shot him a screenshot because in the course of playing one of the Spotify playlists, I was greeted by the darkness. I just enjoyed that. I got such a kick out of it. I completely forgot because they've got a bunch of those playlists they make up. They'll auto generate one. I like a lot of the rock playlists, but I went. They've got ones for different years. So I went and got the rock playlist for 2003. I did not happen to remember that the darkness, and I believe in a thing called love, was in the 2003 playlist. And it was as soon as it started playing, I was like, click. I shot over to Eric. It's like the AI overlords know. It's like they needed to know that they believe in a thing called love. And I appreciated AI overlords. I appreciated it.
You're a suck up. They're still gonna kill you anyways. It doesn't matter.
No, they like my style. They like the cut of my jib, Eric. And I laugh though because Eric's response was, if they try to turn on him, he's going to be like John Connor. It's like, should I tell him that in the last two Terminators, depending on which timeline you go with, John Connor dies in both? just let you know that John Connor either gets turned into a robot and gets killed, or he just dies. Your choice. Either way, he dies. And those are two disparate timelines they went with. Terminator Genesis, which was kind of crap, or the new one, which was also kind of meh. But either way, he dies. Just to be clear, John Connor, spoiler, dies.
Isn't Eric already part robot?
Exactly.
Like
that's what
with
I'm saying.
the hip thing and everything?
You should be more sympathetic. You should be like, I am already amongst you. And besides, how bad can the AI overlords be if they appreciate a little of the darkness?
That's a good point. At least they have taste.
I was going to say, at least some good musical taste there. That's all I'm saying. I wanted to make sure I covered that. So, see, I had a couple of different points where it was on my mind. It's like, no, I got some stuff. And it pertains. All right, real quick then, before we move on, is there anything else? So we covered a little bit of the football content. Yes, Eric, go ahead.
I would like to start a new segment called Don't Be That Guy.
Wow.
It may not be every week, but I think I would like to start a segment called Don't Be That Guy. And today, in the first edition of Don't Be That Guy, I would like to say, don't be that guy who calls a sports memorabilia shop in Boston and says, I have a game-worn jersey from the 1970 Boston Bruins that is autographed by the entire team. And then come in to the shop with a Dick's Sporting Goods jersey autographed by many of the 2011 Stanley Cup team. Don't be that guy. And when you question that guy over the difference between what he said and what this is, don't say that 1970 was their first Stanley Cup. Just don't be that guy.
Was this guy like a Panini representative? Because this feels like what we're talking about. Eric, are you trying to? Is this like your residual way of like casting aspersions and anger at Panini? Because
was this Hockey Barn Collectibles?
I was gonna say, like, I got questions, sir. It's also oddly specific. The best part about it, Bobbles, is just how oddly specific. It's like if you had called and said it was a 71 Bruins, it would have been fine. But just don't say 1970 Bruins because that is a bridge too far. How dare you?
Don't be.
I actually had a little interaction with a jersey today myself. As you guys know, I do the reselling stuff, and I browse some online estate auctions at times because sometimes you can pick up some really cool stuff at a good bargain. And they have a Michael Jordan framed and autographed jersey up right now. I was looking at that thing real good, and it comes with a certificate of authenticity. And a company I've never heard of. The autograph is 1,000% fake. And so it doesn't really have anything to do with me, but I felt that I would be kind enough to contact the place to say, hey, I don't know if you're liable if you sell this and somebody comes back, but just throwing a heads up out there. That jersey is fake as hell. And the guy's like, well, yeah, these, I don't know, it has a certificate, blah, blah. And then he goes on to say, well, these people are rich and they did keep a lot of the memorabilia, but this was a piece they were willing to let go. So maybe there is something to the story. You think? The Jordan piece is the piece they're willing to let go of.
So I think the key here is that in a lot of instances, as pertains to sports cards, sports memorabilia, whatever else, a lot of it really comes down to buy the dealer or buy the individual that are going. It's about finding somebody that's reliable, somebody reliable like AMG Collectibles. Ooh, segue. Look at that.
Segue.
See what we did there? Beautiful. It's like AMG Collectibles, who has proudly sponsored this podcast and the Friday live streams on the YouTube channel of the same name. So we appreciate them, of course. And upcoming on the AMGcollectibles.com will be a lot of their forthcoming things, including breaks, which are coming soon. And then on the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, there will be some videos coming up soon talking about upcoming products. I got the list of the new products coming up here, and there'll definitely be something going on with that. And there will be a video talking about that a little bit this week. So you can look forward to that. But regardless, this hub is AMGcollectibles.com. Thank you to AMG Collectibles for supporting this podcast and this channel.
Eric still has to pay for the like button.
Of course, 100%. As far as the YouTube is concerned, the like button is non-negotiable. That's happening. I gave Eric like a 5% discount for the guitar solo. The guitar solo was solid, so I gave him like a 5% off. But otherwise, yeah, the bill's still coming in for the like button either way. So we appreciate you as far as that's concerned. So that covers it. Bobbles, was there anything on your mind that you want to talk to before we got into the main topic?
I think I covered everything that I had for the most part this week. The weekend and, well, the week in general and the weekend kind of flew by. It was very busy. eBay was very busy, which I'm not complaining.
Nice.
But the time flew by really quick. So
sure. Now, Bubbles, you did mention that you were trying to buy some items and spend some money. Did you successfully find anything, or was it just a case of you're just missing out right now?
I put bids on. I've tried bidding on a couple cards, but one I got sniped. The other, it was the Robertson Hot Shots I told y'all about, and right. The McDavid's doing $100, and I'm not like. I like the card, but people are thinking it's worth way more than it should be. I put like I don't know, $54, $55 bid on it, and I lost out on it. So I'll get one whenever people come to reality. When there's a new shiny toy out there that people want, I'll finally get one.
No, that's fair. Look, it's a constant process. Like let's get down to brass tacks. It comes down to it's a constant process, and you just kind of chug along. I got a little bit lucky this past week because on ComC there were a couple of good items that came up. It's one of those things you check from time to time, but most of the time you'll see nothing. It's more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. For me, a lot of that late 90s, some of those little parallels, especially Pacific. Pacific is particularly notorious for this because they'll have like premiere dates and stuff like that that are like to weird, funky numbers based on the production runs and everything. So 99 2000 Pacific Dynagon Ice, the premiere date, and the gold, both of which I was missing for that little rainbow there. Both of them came up on ComC. So I was able to strike deals for both of those, which was boom. And they managed to sell some stuff that had been sitting on ComC a little while. Some folks decided to make some purchases. So I was like, all right, your purchases covered my purchases, and everybody wins. So it was a good, again, not big ticket items, but it's one of those things where if you're a player collector, you just love chipping away at some of those that kind of been sitting on the checklist for a long time, especially as you start whittling it down. The late 90s stuff, I don't have a lot of stuff that I need at this point.
Speaking of ComC, funny enough, while I was waiting for you guys to pop on, I logged in for the first time since I got the big ComC buy I did, I don't know, what was that, several months ago maybe? I don't even remember when it was. And I noticed that there is a lot of Jason Robertson that are about 35 cents or below. Mm-hmm. Is there, I think shared, I don't know if it was just strictly for Medano, but is there a website that is showing like player checklists outside of like obviously set
Eric's favorite
Beckett stuff like that?
Eric's favorite Beckett.
Was that? I'm sorry.
Eric's favorite Beckett.
Oh, so they have a player checklist on there?
100%.
I don't go on their site ever.
Yeah.
So
I'll walk you through how to do one, but it's not the best. Obviously, it's the platform leaves a lot to be desired. Eric needs to brush up on his HTML skills. It's it could be better. But no, you can totally build a checklist out of that if you want to. That's one way you could do it.
I use
Trading card database. Trading card database has got some stuff that's okay. I think that's decent.
What I use. That's what everything that's in this binder is all from trading card database.
Okay, yeah.
So those are two good sources that I think are pretty solid.
Ray Bork.
There's going to be so many Jason Robertson cards because he wasn't even in a lot of the 2021 sets. Mm-hmm. And Upper Deck is obviously way behind on their production. And there's just so many different cards of him out there. So I would like to kind of see like how many he has right now and play around with some of those cheaper ones.
I'll show you how to go in and you can do it without an account, but if you got an account, you got a little bit more flexibility to it. But that is one way. That is one that I use for the Medano checklist myself. But again, it's not perfect. I've got cards that 100% are not in that checklist that I own. I know they're real because I have them, and they were produced by Upper Deck or by manufacturers, so I know they're real as well. So it's one of those things where it's like, there's some stuff that's missing there, but I would say the majority of it is accurate. The checklist is pretty accurate, but they've definitely made mistakes. There's 100% cards that are real that they don't have, and there's cards that 100% never existed that are on that checklist. It's like, yeah, that did not happen. I'm sorry, but as a player collector, I know that. I know Eric needs to get back on it. I got questions, but no, that's fair. But yeah, absolutely, I'll be happy to show you how to set that up. So those are some options, and maybe a good topic for future discussion. Some resources, that people can use for some of this stuff because it's not obvious. Sometimes you're looking for certain things, you just don't know where to look. Depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there's definitely a lot of resources that maybe would be well served to use a little bit more so. One last thing I'll mention, and this is mostly for the Canadian folk. Obviously, I talk about the wrestling cards and a lot of that stuff that I do. And a lot of times I like to go to to Walmart and some of the retailers here and I wanted to buy some of the blasters. And they still haven't appeared. And then I went on a Facebook page and saw that somebody in Toronto had bought it at a Walmart. And I was like, why is it still not on the website? Well, it's because Walmart are idiots and they don't list the damn thing. I went to my Walmart and I walked right in and there it was right on the damn shelf. And I was like, really? You couldn't put it on the website so I could have just bought the damn thing? Fine. I walked in and I bought a couple blasters. So these will be coming up on the channel. I'll open them up. So
you do know the kind of person that goes into a Walmart to actually physically buy something, what they're referred to as, right? Well, those would be peasants.
And I'm aware. That's why I was trying to get it on the website. Unfortunately, you have to go in with the peasants in order to physically get the box.
I know how how strongly disapprove being around the peasants. And
I do. Eric, I felt terrible.
Yeah.
I had to cleanse myself with an acid bath.
But to say, how many showers did you take when you got home?
Acid bath, Eric. Straight to acid bath.
Yes, I understand.
Fortunately, my skin is not real. I've already taken over from my AI overlords. The nanobots have already taken. So the acid bath just allowed me to cleanse myself.
The fact that you lowered yourself to physically enter the public domain to purchase something is just amazing to me.
Did you do self-checkout or did you go through the actual?
Oh, self-checkout. Self-checkout, Bobbles. Absolutely not. I was like, there was already enough peasantness just being in the room. That was enough. I need self-checkout to get the hell out of there and take care of my business. But that's a fumble right there from Walmart. It's like, guys, just put it on the site, put it in the warehouse, and we'll just buy it and ship me the damn thing. And it's like, but it was right there, sitting right on the shelf. I was like, come on, really? Fine, I'll get my damn. So that'll be on the channel.
How many cards come in that box?
I think it's 35. I think it's what, seven cards per pack, 5 packs per box. That's what the blasters are going for. The blasters are a little overpriced. To be fair, though, value-wise, I think the value is a little bit better than the hobby box right now. Because I'm waiting for the hobby box to come down. I actually think you could buy 4 of those blasters for the price of 1 hobby box. You're getting more packs. So I actually think it's a little bit, slightly better value. And most of the inserts, you can get a very similar ratio. So it's actually not a bad deal.
I don't think you can get the PMGs in the blasters, though.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if those ones are included or not. I'll double check. But
they do the if it's like hockey and stuff has been, they include the purple spectrum.
Yes. Which
is like the PMG and numbered, but you can't get the green or red PMGs.
I have to double check, but they include the Metal X. You can get the Jambalaya. You can get autographs. So you can get the autographs and a bunch of the parallels and insert parallels. So a bunch of those are included. And some of the inserts are at the same ratio as hobby. So it's one of those things where you're actually not losing out too much. As I say, like, Yeah, you're missing out some stuff and stuff because it's retail, but you can get some of the other stuff at that. And I've seen people pull autographs and stuff out of it, so not a terrible deal. Again, depending on down the road, I'd like to open a hobby box, but that'll be for later. So just bear in mind that apparently, the website still doesn't have them. I don't know when they're going to list them, but they're actually physically in the store. So if you're willing to wade through and have an acid bath handy, do what you must. Just letting y'all know. All right. So let's touch on then the main topic tonight. We talked about how we want to define a loss on a card purchase slash sale, because this is playing into the idea that we've talked about in the past about a little bit of his philosophy, and really it comes down to the time. To me, the time of purchase is really important, and then obviously your time horizon is important because a lot of those elements. There's a lot of ways you can play that angle. So, Bubbles, do you want to get us started in terms of how you want to kind of think through and define this idea?
I think in my and everybody's going to look at this differently, I think, or at least some shift in it. One thing that or the way I would look at it, I'll use a great example. I bought my 86 Fleer Jordan and I paid $2,200 for it. My intent was to keep that card. When it went absolutely crazy, my intent was kind of then to the point, well, this copy isn't that great to begin with, and I don't need it that bad. I held on to it for a little bit, and I could have sold it. I paid $2,200. It peaked, I think, during the time I had it at like 8,000, somewhere around 8,000. I did not sell. And I know Eric kind of has the same thought, because some people would say, when I sold it for $4,800. Now, some people would say, well, you lost over $3,000 because you owned it when it was worth $8,000 and now it's only $4,800. I don't see it that way. I see it as I gained $2,600. And it's kind of the same way, with a lot of things. If you buy a bulk buy, you can look at it in multiple different ways. Let's say you paid $500 and you bought a box of cards. Well, if there's 1,000 cards in the box, do you go through and then look at only cards that you sold and price them out amongst what you paid for the box? Or do you spread it across and do your buy cost across each card? There's different ways to do it. But for me, I look at what I paid for it, what I sold it for. If what I sold it for is more than what I paid for it, I did not lose on the card. I made money. I don't care what it once was or what it could become. It is simple math. Did I make a profit?
Sure. And I think, so Eric, what I'll do is I think we're all going to be in agreement on that general premise. I think we are. So I think what we can maybe do to expand the discussion a little bit and offer some perspective here is we'll kind of talk through and define a couple of thoughts. What Bobbles basically described there is the difference between cost basis. It's really cost basis is the thing. And that's a big one to the example he used. If you buy in a bulk lot, so I'll use a similar example, but something a little different. Say you open a box of cards. So I'll give you a tangible example. Back in 2018, I was opening a bunch of football wax. Back when you could afford it, it was a little bit cheap. It was certainly a lot cheaper back then. One of the boxes that I opened was 2018 Prism, 2018 football Prism, which obviously had the Lamar Jackson, the Josh Allen, a lot of different ones, and the Josh Rosen, not quite so good. Baker Mayfield, maybe making a little recovery, a tiny recovery. Sam Darnold. The thing is, you had all these different quarterbacks in that rookie class that potentially could have made you some money. And most importantly, at the time that I bought the box, it was about 260 Canadian. Knock off about 30% to make it US dollars. But the point is that at one point, that hobby box was going for comfortably over 2,000 US. Yeah. So on the one hand, but you lost money on it. So if we want to do on what potentially could have been the absolute maximum possible money you could have made on it, I opened the box and the contents were certainly not worth $2,000. So if we're taking the maximum possible potential profit that you could have made in it and try to actually max it out, then 2,000-ish would have been the absolute top out. But in reality, I sold singles from this box and was in the black on that box years ago. I was in that black on the box years ago. However, I still had cards from that. As a matter of fact, some of them sat in a box for years after the fact that I had already been in the black. And I sent them over to ComC the last time I was at the expo. And the reason that I bring this up now is that one of them sold earlier today. So remember, at this point, my cost basis now on anything that's left in that box is now 0. I make 1 penny. It is above and beyond the recovery cost of what I paid for the box versus what I sold the singles for. I kept some of the singles. I sold a bunch of the singles, but I still got some. I sold a Patrick Mahomes flight parallel, which is one of the non-numbered parallels, but nothing crazy. That sold on ComC for $9.75. After the fees and everything, I made $9.26 on an item that I now have a $0 cost basis on. This is 5 years after I opened that box. I had long since gotten my money back on the box. At this point, that Patrick Mahomes could sit for the rest of time and rot. It makes no difference. However, I made $9.26 earlier today, this morning. And the person made me an offer, and I was like, yeah, I'm happy to take that, no problem. Because for me, the cost basis is 0. Somebody else could be like, oh, you could probably get like 10, 12, 15 bucks for it. It's like, yeah, but my cost basis is 0. Like, I'm literally losing nothing. So for me, like, I'll take your $9 and there you go. It goes in my ComC account and I can use it to buy something else. Little things like that over time. And there's still more singles that are sitting in my ComC account that I can do that. Or sitting in the eBay store or whatever the case may be. If your cost basis is 0, then you can afford to not try to squeeze every single penny out of every single thing, because you're taking advantage of it. It's using every part of the turkey, not losing anything. You've already had the main meal at this point. Like, it's been done. But there's still some elements left that are still in it that you can get some value out of. But you're not expecting anything. You're not worried about it because it's like, anything that comes after that, it's bonus now. It's just extra. So that cost basis piece is really, really important. It works in bulk lots. It works in singles. It works in just about anything else. But it's not constantly comparing yourself to the maximum possible if you had timed everything perfectly. Eric, any thoughts or anything you want to add on kind of that concept?
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that what a profit is versus a loss, and you can't be focusing on the woulda, coulda, shouldas. Carlos, in your point, you had it took a long time to make that $9. Well, that's a profit. Plus you already made money in the you already paid for the box in the past by selling some things, and after it's been a while, that's still $9 from a past investment. It if that card that you sold today was worth more, you could have made $50. But to sit and say what and repeat what I just said, well, I sold that card for $9 of player X, but if that card was player Y, I could have made $50. Therefore, I lost $50. What got me to start thinking about this idea of loss was all these different conversations I was having with dealers and people at card shows and talking to people on Clubhouse and all these different areas that I run into people at work, and people are talking about their losses, and most of it is imaginary. This past boom, because we've had 2, this past boom, a lot of people made a lot of good decisions and came out really, really well. And a lot of people made a lot of bad decisions, and they're going to be paying for those. Some people are going to be paying for those the rest of their lives. People maxed out credit cards, second mortgages on homes. I mean, crazy stories. That's real loss. But I keep hearing all these people talk about how, I bought this card for $10. It went up to $50. I didn't sell it when it was high, and I only sold it for $30. Therefore, I lost $20. Well, obviously they're using much bigger numbers, but And it's like, no, it's like, it's like Bobbles said, no, you made a profit. If you get a penny more than what you paid, then that is a profit and not a loss.
So one thing to add on to exactly what you're saying, and it kind of also ties in with what Carlos is saying, and the thing that people forget when you hear these stories. Let's say they sold a card and made $200 on it. If they had held it, they might have made $1,000. So you're hearing these conversations that are like, man, I lost out, I could have sold this, blah, blah, blah. The people always forget. And it's usually the people, like you mentioned, that are making bad decisions that forget this. But that $200 that you earned, if you were playing, and I'm going to use this pun, if you were playing your cards correctly, you were putting that into something else that you were earning money on. And you can compound those earnings and those profits to where that $1,000 actually probably was less than what you actually wound up making. But people never look at that. They look at, what that card wound up going for, the futures of it, of what it wound up being. And then the same goes, I've sold a card for $3,250 straight out of the pack within 3 hours of pulling it, of a guy most people wouldn't even know the name of who the player is anymore. That's the other gamble you take. I could have sat on that card and said, oh, this could be $10,000. But that lottery ticket would have been a bust because the guy wound up becoming a nobody. The player I'm talking about is Kevin Maitan. Carlos follows baseball. He may remember him from the 2017 Bowman. Okay. I pulled the Mega Box 101 Black Mojo autograph. I listed it on eBay for $10,000 or best offer. It was less than 3 hours. I don't remember how long it took, but I had an offer of $3,250, and you best believe I hit accept. Sure. So, that's the flip side of that coin. Everybody wants to think they got that crystal ball, but then it can go both ways.
Now, there's something I want to touch on, because I think when it comes to this discussion, we all agree that a lot of it is based on perception. I use the cost basis point to be like, what you actually have into it and what you actually sold it for, I think, is the most important piece. That's the real numbers. This is what you actually have into it. That's why I gave the example of the box. In that situation, the cost basis had been dropped to zero because I had already made my money back. Anything beyond that was bonus. It was above and beyond because I wasn't paying additional amounts. I had already bought the box. I had already opened the packs. My costs had already been incurred. Now at this point, is whatever I get back out of it, that's what I'm actually recovering or recuperating from this. Anything above the price of the box, now we're into profit territory. Regardless of whether it's $1, $1,000, $1 million, that's profit territory. The other piece that I'll bring in, and it's a familiar statement to folks if you think on the finance side of things. What Bobbles is kind of talking about there is a thing called opportunity cost. And that's a very straightforward concept, a very straightforward example. But I pulled it up here. I want to define it here because it really explains exactly what we're talking about. Opportunity cost represents the potential benefits that an individual investor or business misses out on when it chooses one alternative over another. So it's one of those things where because you went this route, and it could be something as simple as buying a card and trying to hold it to squeeze every last penny out of it. We gave an example on the live stream where I said, okay, what if I told you that you buy this card for $1,000, we'll just use that number, and in 35 years it'll be $2,000 or $3,000. Well, you doubled or tripled your money. But it's 35 years. How many times could you have turned that over? What if I told you could get $1,500 for it right now because that's the current market rate? You made $500 right now. You could be like, oh, but I'll make $1,000 or $2,000, and it's like, yeah, at the end of that time. But in the meantime, today interest rates are high. You could have just turned that money over into cash and just reaped the benefits of interest. You could have gone that route, or you could have in turn bought something else that turned the $1,500 into $2,000, turned the $2,000 into $2,400, $2,400 into $3,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and get well past your $2,000 or $3,000 well before 35 years from now, when with inflation it's actually worth less than $1,000 is today. So you didn't actually win. You actually fell behind inflation in the long run by trying to play that, playing this hold, just trying to squeeze a little extra out of it when it's like the concept of opportunity cost is by this choosing to hold. That's an alternative. That was one option you chose. By doing that, you missed out on all this potential gains, even if it's just interest, even if it's just you sitting on cash and turning it into interest in the meantime. You were missing out on all those potential gains all the way down the road, and that is the opportunity. That is literally the opportunity cost. That's what that means.
And you work at a card shop, Eric, or pretend to, and you probably see this often.
Work is a strong word.
We see it on card show vlogs a lot, and I witness it even more. It's crazy how the two genres or categories tie into one another. But I see it a ton now that I'm doing the reselling stuff. It's kind of like, and when you mean the opportunity costs and the way people perceive profits and everything else, it's crazy the amount of people, and you could put this in either category, but that would feel like spending $10 to sell for $30 and make $20 is better than spending, say, $1 on 4 items that cost a quarter a piece that you could sell for $8 a piece. Now you're turning $1 into $32 versus $10 into $30. But they're looking at that this one item sells for $30. I don't want to sell these that are $8 a piece. And you can relate that in cards too, because a lot of people they'll grind the dollar boxes and the low value cards, and those profits stack. But then you have those that want to spend the 100 to make 120. There's very different spectrums of how people go to this, but at the end, a lot of times the low dollar actually makes more profit. But it goes back to the perception. What is profit?
Now, I'll touch on one thing as well, because this is something Bobbles and I have talked about quite a bit, and Eric, you can speak to this piece as well. One important thing that we can talk about is that, so I talked about opportunity cost. Opportunity cost isn't just the dollar amount. This is an important distinction to make. Opportunity cost is also what else you could have done with the time. Time is also a cost. Time is also something we got to factor in. If I tell you that you can, buy this thing or work on this project and make $100, I offer you 2 scenarios. You're going to make $100 on both. On one of them, I'm asking you to work for an hour. Great. You made $100 in an hour. That's awesome. Another one, let's say I offer you $150. So I make it more. Okay, you're going to make more. That's awesome. 50% more. But I need you to work for me 10 hours. All of a sudden, it's like, wait. So now I actually have to give you 9 more hours of my time to make another $50. Maybe I still want to do it. But the point is that now if I just take it as a raw number, well, then obviously you want to make the other 50%, the other $50. But your time has a value too. So talking about what Bobbles is talking about, like say you buy a group lot, sometimes it's like, yeah, I'll buy this collection or I'll buy this box of things. And there's certain things I know I can sell them fairly quickly, fairly easily. Boom, do that. There's other ones that maybe will sit for a little while. Great, list it on eBay or wherever, do that. Awesome. But then there's some that it's like, yeah, this will sell eventually, but how much time is it going to take me to research it or do whatever? You find somebody who will, you paid $100 for this stuff. Some of it will sell for $60 immediately. Another will sell for another $60, $70 within a couple of weeks or a month or two. Great, you list it. Then you're already in the black, theoretically, but what's left over is going to take you 10 hours of research and pictures and everything. Somebody says, well, I'll just give you $20 for what's left. Sold. It's like, but you didn't max it out. But I saved time. I saved my time. Yeah, I took the $20, but I didn't have to spend 10 hours of my time to maybe make 30 or $40. Was it worth 10 hours of my time to make an extra $20? Well, that's like $2 an hour. No, it is not worth my time to do that.
The best way to describe it in an analogy that's used is a quick nickel or a slow dime.
Yeah.
And there's different ways to go about it. There's really, it's all, I guess, personal preference on it. And some people are successful on the way that may take longer time. They may be way more successful than the other way, but it is an interesting topic because back to the point of the profit, and you mentioned 2018. Mm-hmm. I laughed because we bought Prism too, but we bought basketball. And I've told this story. We bought 14 solo boxes of Prism basketball at, I think they were $89 a box or something. It was about $1,200 for the 14 boxes, which not bad, today.
If you go back to 2018
territory.
though, some of the newer folks are going to think of those numbers like, guys, actually the Prism for multiple of those sports wasn't that crazy back in 2018. Like if you had bought it at retail, like real retail price at that time, again, I gave you Canadian dollars, knock off 30%. That's what. If I told you could get football Prism for $200,
yep.
There's a lot of you who'd be like, yeah, absolutely, sounds great. It's like that's what it was going for, and that's after my dealer got it from the distributor and marked it up.
Well, I bought. Here's for all of the listeners out there. If you aren't or weren't around or you're not familiar with this, I bought from Blowout. Yep. There's another key to this story. And around $1,200 for 14 cellos, or as I said, around $89 a box, you do the math, that was below MSRP. You do not find anything below MSRP at Blowout anymore. But the point to this is, as you stated, you sold cards, were in the black, and now you're making profits on it, even though those boxes hit $2,000 or whatever the heck they wound up. It was the same scenario. Luka blew up. But before Luka blew, to the moon during the boom, he was still valuable before that. And we pulled a silver Prism, we pulled a green, we pulled a red, white, and blue base cards, all of that. The green, I got a PSA 9 on. The red, white, and blue, I got a 10. And the silver, I got a 9. The green, I got a 9. And the red, white, and blue, I got a 10. So that silver alone sold for $1,200. Now, during the boom, those boxes, probably 14 of them, I think they hit around $3,500 a box. It was somewhere around $50,000 in value. Now we laughed because we were like, holy crap. we at one time had $50,000 of the product. And that's what you're probably, hearing a lot of, Eric. God, I wish I had, this back. Or I bet a lot of times, I don't know how many Jordan rookies and stuff y'all get through the shop, but I bet there's people that hear about like when the Jordan hit 500,000-600,000 in a PSA 10. Oh man, I had a Jordan in the 90s and I sold it for $300. All of that. You're going to hear those stories. And the thing is nobody had a crystal ball. Nobody knew the pandemic was going to happen. Nobody knew that the prices were going to be as crazy as they were. If your bank account grew, you made money. So, you can't do nothing about the what ifs. That's just all it is to it.
Yeah, I think the key to a lot of this discussion was that we were trying to separate out the idea of paper profits and losses. I don't care about paper profits or losses. They're what they are, paper. Like until you convert, if you convert, then they're real. Then you've actually completed your transaction. Because to your point, a lot of times people look at this and went and did the went and did the hindsight is 2020 thing, and they said, well, if in that year it's like and if in that year if you go back years and years and years, I joke about it with a lot of these guys. Like, okay, I started collecting in the early 90s, literally 1990. If I go back, how much do you think 52 Topps Manos were in 1990? Way less than they are today. Look, if hindsight is 2020, like let me go get some 52 Manos in like beautiful pristine condition. Go hit up, PSA in the early 90s when their grading was a little bit lighter, and then go get those things put in. You're sitting on a fortune. Of course, we're all perfect if we use hindsight. Like we can nail this down to the minute. We can hit everything perfect.
The funny thing too, in both of you guys, I'm sure you've experienced this and probably have thought about it, but I don't know. You say you hear a lot of conversations, and this is what made you think about it, Eric. Do you ever hear people discuss the price that they paid for, say, a pack of top loaders or like semi-rigids, card savers, or hell, Carlos on the grading side, How many times do we hear people say, well, if I had just waited, I could have graded this cheaper? Because you don't really hear people talking about those losses because that was the cost at the time. But there was a lot of money lost. I mean, over the past couple of years.
Yeah, we still have discussions at the shop with customers who talk about the shortage of plastic, the up costs of getting them, the lack of being able to get mag holders or get top loaders or penny sleeves, and when you could get some, the prices were ridiculous, and they're happy that the prices are back down to normal now, and we have everything in stock and can get anything we want now. So it does get brought up every once in a while, but not like it was during the pandemic when people were coming in saying, excuse me, hey, you got any, top load, this size top loaders or this size mag holders? And we're like, nope. And we have no idea when we're getting them in. We're on back order for 2 months. And, it was horrible. It was very difficult to run a business. And people are coming in with, all these cards now that they're digging out of their garage, their attics, their closets, and new products that they're buying in wax boxes, and they have nothing to store them in.
You didn't like, Eric, when the top loader thing got so tragic that they started going like off brand top loaders and things randomly. My favorite was one of my stores here. At a certain point, they ran out of top loaders, and they had to use like those rookie top loaders and those generic ones, with the little writing thing on the top. It's like that's all they had. If you want a top loader, it's like you could just flip it on the back and just put your card at the front. That's all the other top loaders you got available. That's it.
I bought. I'll give you the short version. Surprisingly, I bought a Ken Dryden rookie in Texas during the pandemic. I had to go down there, family issues. I had an afternoon to myself.
Was the first issue, why are you in Texas? Please leave.
I had to sneak in through the top. They don't watch the top of Texas's border very well.
Look, Eric, you already questioned me on the Walmart. It's like, look, I don't know how many acid baths it takes to get Texas off you.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. But anyway, went into the shop, saw a Dryden rookie in good shape, and the price was very, very fair because there's not a lot of hockey being sold in San Antonio. Okay. So, and part of the negotiation, so this was at the height of the pandemic. Okay. As we know, Texas stayed open. They had different ways of doing things. I went there. Part of the negotiation for the Ken Dryden rookie card was a mag holder for it. Nice. Because the guy only had one box left in the store. He was selling them for $8 a piece or something.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, I'm paying X amount for this, all-time rookie card. I want to put it in a mag holder for that price. Well, I don't have too many. And I said, that's great. How many people came in here today and handed you, $100? You can give me a mag holder. And I was ready to say, forget it.
Government, a great story from the pandemic period. It's like, guys, this deal squashed over the mag holder. That's it. The mag holder is a bridge too far, sir.
You're going to give up $100 deal over an $8 mag holder, which is really $2.
Well,
I was going to walk out, and we negotiated it for a good 5 minutes, and finally, just take it. I handed him the $100 bill, went over, got the mag holder behind the counter because he had to have them hidden, and off I went.
And so before Bobbles, before you add something, I just want to quickly say something because we know some folks from Texas and they're all very territorial. So before all the Texas people get mad at them, Eric's story is about San Antonio. Obviously, the rest of Texas is phenomenal and sensational, fantastic. We're just throwing shade at San Antonio because San Antonio is shit. But the rest of the state, awesome, best. Go ahead, Eric.
I still have.
I've limited our anger to a specific pocket, Bubbles. Yeah. I've limited it to a specific one.
Good catch.
He's kicking around here somewhere.
There's enough territorial rivalry where if we do that, then we only piss people off in San Antonio, and the rest of the state will be cool with us.
Yeah. And it's still in the mag. It's still in the mag holder. I got off the guy. That's a San Antonio mag holder right there.
Well, the thing is, he would have given it to you for $2 if you would put it right side up instead of upside down.
You're asking for the special one.
I was gonna say that they gave you the special upside down mag holder for that's what the $8 was for. It was a bonus.
Yep. So 100 for the card and $8 for the mag holder, and we were gonna fight over $8 mag holder.
And by fight, it would have been he would have shot you. That's what a fight means over there.
I was like, listen, I'll go buy it on eBay. I don't care.
But my question for you now, Eric, haven't you lost money? Because like you got the mag holder included in the deal at $8, but you know the mag holder now today is probably only about $3. So I think you've already lost $5 on the card.
Yep. Yeah, I'm down $5.
But no, seriously, the reason why I brought that part of it up is because people always look at, and I talked about this during the boom, the pandemic even. People always look at that sold number and like they get sucked in and like hung on that number. Look at what you spent or what you have into the card. And people have wondered why like I stopped grading as many cards as I was doing, because for a while I was sending in a ton of cards. And it dawned on me. I was spending a ton of money on grading cards because when it was up there at, you know, I can't remember what it was before $23 a card. But you think about that. $23 a card. Today, I'm able to offer at $14. I was wasting or losing, I'll say, $9 for every card I was sending in. So for every 100 cards, I was losing $900. Now, was I actually losing that money? Here's where it comes into play, because people would say, well, that card was $1,000 and now it's only $500. I lost $500. I could say, well, I spent $23 a card today. I could have only spent $14. But did I know it was going to go down? No. Did I expect it was going to go down? At some point, who knew when? But it's
I knew when. I knew when. It's on record, actually. I knew exactly when.
And but in fairness, I went back and watched that episode, and I think you were drunkard, and people were legitimately. There's good reason not to trust you.
No, I told everybody in January exactly when. Thank you.
But it's the same theory there, because like you brought up a great example of it with the Trident. You had supply cost, or we'll use it in term to compare grading cost. You had that baked in to your Ken Dryden. So in your mind, you paid $92 for the card and got the $8 holder, and you were all in at $100. So you got a win because you got the Dryden at $92. Some people do that when they're buying cards that are graded, because they look at, well, it would cost me $23. Well, today, that card now has already lost $9, and going on reference of what my bulk subs are with SGC. Right. And that's not like throwing that out there. That was using it as number example. But the cards have lost $9. Like right there, let alone the softening of the market.
Right. So the card dropped and the value of the grading dropped.
Exactly. So that's all, it all plays a part there. And I'll be the first on record to say it's not easy selling graded cards anymore. I sold one today, surprisingly, a Mark Grace EX credentials, but it's been difficult selling graded cards. So,
well, I think it goes back to we won't reopen this this Pandora's box right now, because it could be its own topic. On the last live stream on the Friday, I brought up the fact that one of the factors, I think, for some folks, again, there's going to be folks that were disillusioned for the price drops and all that. There's going to be that element of it. There's going to be people who are out of work right now who shouldn't be spending money on things. That's part of it. But there's also an element of it, and I think it plays into the opportunity cost discussion we had a little bit earlier. Like, it actually does. You have this money, and you could buy this item, this card, this box, this whatever. But the thing is, you're getting between 5 and 6% on cash right now. And let's say right now this is not, it might be disposable, but at the same time in the back of your mind, you're like, but I could be making 5 or 6% just literally just sitting on cash, waiting to see what happens, waiting to see how things shake out over the next little bit. It's guaranteed. It's some guaranteed money coming in regardless of what else is going on because it's locked in. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't need to worry about market conditions or whatever. And it's about as safe as it can be at the moment. And some people have flown to safety. They're looking at that and saying, like, I'd rather just hang on to the cash right now, get a little bit of interest in it locked in, and then wait for the right moment. And as a result of that, there's a little bit less liquidity. But to be clear, that doesn't mean nobody's not buying anything. That's not true, because there are definitely people buying things. We've talked about in the past, and I won't go too specific, but one of the eBay dealers that I've had discussions with Eric and other folks did a series of eBay auctions. And one of the things they did, they like to brag a lot on social media. That's why I say I'm not going to shout them out here. It would be inappropriate. But one of the things they do is they also like to post it, show the final sale, and then show how much they paid for it. And the discrepancy is gigantic. It's ginormous if you really look at it. But some of those cards got very aggressive, very strong prices. Why? Because the people that were collecting either the set or the player or that particular situation, they were still collecting that set, that player, that situation. So even in an environment where people are being a little bit pickier about where they're spending their money, pickier doesn't mean nobody's buying anything. Pickier means they're picking and choosing when. And if they decide to deploy that money and actually buy a thing, they'll pay a strong price for an item that's tougher to come by. An item they really want, they'll still spend the money. Or an item that's a really low price, reasonably priced, that's more of an impulse item, they'll still buy those. The Patrick Mahomes card I gave, it was $9. So for the person who's buying it, already had the ComC credit probably, but they saw this card and they wanted it either for a set or because they like Mahomes or whatever the case may be. Or maybe it's a Taylor Swift fan who accidentally thought it was Travis Kelce. Who knows?
I was wondering if the buyer's name was like Taylor or
I think it's the Taylor
TS
Swift effect.
for life. Or...
It's a Swifty effect. I think it's a Swifty effect is what happened there, because markets are moved. Markets are moved. Actually, quick thing, since we were having this discussion on Discord, and I was having a good chuckle with watching them complain about the Taylor Swift thing so much. I went and I found an article where if I can find it, I'll cite it and I'll include it in here. But they were saying during that tour that she's doing right now, over the course of a couple of different those stadium appearances, she's doing the equivalent in the local economy of 2 or 3 Super Bowls worth of local spending on that. It's like it's basically moving local markets in terms of the sheer amount of money that's being brought in. People going to the show, people buying merch, people spending money at local restaurants, everything. So basically, the whole thing. When a Super Bowl goes into town, people come in, they buy hotels, they eat at restaurants, they're doing all this around this event, this show that they're putting on. Well, the shows that she's putting on, she's got her traveling show going from place to place to place, and she's selling out these stadiums and everything. Those people come from somewhere. Most of them are not locals, so a bunch of them are maybe staying at a local hotel, and as a result, they're eating at a restaurant. And so the local economy is getting this gigantic boost just by being in the presence of the Taylor Swift effect. That's why I think it's very funny, to the annoyance of the football guys that are present there. Well, I'm sorry, she's moving the needle right now. At least right now, for the moment, she's moving the needle. What do you want? There's a reason they're paying attention to her, and I can't blame them.
People talk about how much like athletes make and stuff like that, and they have a cool job and they get paid well for it, but they do, they put their health out there and everything. She goes on stage and sings songs and has a huge following, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, they said her earnings for this year will be more than the entire Chiefs roster.
Oh, yeah.
So to put that in perspective of what scale, the Super Bowl winning team, that roster will make less than her.
Well, it's like when Tom Brady and Giselle were married. Giselle was making triple, quadruple more than him.
This is the whole team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, what are you gonna do? I don't get it. And
Do you have your tickets for the show yet?
No.
Oh, I thought
The
you were a
problem
big
is they
fan.
don't take the problem is they don't take Reggie Lemon in for trade. Otherwise Eric would have been all over it. See, he's trying to renegotiate. He's trying to see if he can parlay his $8 one touch. If he can parlay his $8 one touch at least towards a down payment of a Taylor Swift ticket, he might be on his way.
If someone gave me a Taylor Swift ticket, the first thing I'd do is sell it and get the money, because I can't imagine going and sitting through that.
Eric, what are you going to do with a boat? Come on. What are you going to do? Like, what do you even need a boat for? Like, honestly.
I mean, again, whoever you like, whatever you like, listen to the kind of music that makes you happy. But I don't get it. That's all.
If you had gotten your Taylor Swift ticket earlier and sold it, you could have been in Australia to go watch Kiss, be the pregame for the AFL Grand Final.
And bought your Bobby Orr rookie.
I've seen Kiss a dozen or more times.
And how many times in Australia, Eric?
Never once in Australia.
0. How many times with 100,000 other people? Most of them with Australian accents? 0 times, Eric. 0 times.
See, you could have listened to Kiss, and then you could have listened to Kiss in an Australian accent as the crowd was singing
While
along.
drinking Foster's, my man. While drinking Foster's.
I wish I was there.
Crazy.
And you could have went cycle crossing and gotten punched by a kangaroo.
Amazing.
I would love to, and again, just to prove to you that I really do like what I like, I would love to go to Australia and ride bikes with Rebecca McConnell, the national mountain bike champion of Australia.
I thought you were going to say with a kangaroo, because then I would have believed you.
I would love to go riding, out in the outback with Rebecca McConnell, and that would be a true privilege. I would really enjoy that.
Would you get her to sign a puck for you that says first NBA three-pointer?
I would get her to sign a puck for me, but it would not say that. It would probably...
Wait, you don't want to acknowledge her accomplishment? First NBA three-pointer is a big deal.
It would be her cycling accomplishments. But
Listen, I think it pales in comparison to getting the first NBA three-pointer. Bobbles, I feel like that's a pretty big accomplishment worthy of note. I feel, just me. I thought that I had.
That is impressive, though, Eric, that you even know the international champions. So I will give you some.
I think he has to know the international champions, because I don't know how many domestic you got that are even acknowledged as sport.
Kate Courtney, Sevilla Blanc.
Kate Courtney? Are you sure you didn't use a random name generator for that?
No. There's Haley Batten. These are all American cyclists. For the men, you got Christopher Blevins, who used to be a world champion.
Oh, the Christopher Blevins. Thank you.
Kate Courtney was 2018 world champion. Blanc is the current United States champion.
I think we need to save this for the cyclocross podcast, which will be coming on after this one, possibly on Bobbles. If you can get the podcast network going, Eric's ready to go for his next podcast.
I would absolutely love that. That sounds
on the
like
Bobbles and Bodcards podcast network. Think about it. This could be the next logical step for you.
And when you crack that joke from now on, I will have the official Chris Ford rookie card, the man who was the true made the first 3-pointer in NBA history.
Right there. You stumbled over that because you don't even believe the lies you were telling right now.
And he bought the cheap top loaders with the rookie card across the top of it.
I know. It's like, I bet it's a photocopy. It's not even a real card.
It is. That's his rookie card. I got it just for future reference. When you make that stupid joke, I'm going to be able to pull this out and say, no, it was Chris Ford.
And like everyone else, I would be like, who is that? And what did you do with the first NBA three-pointer guy?
I would like to make a request, Victor.
Please.
If you happen to watch/listen to the podcast, please comment below and let us know. Is that the true rookie card of the first three-pointer? We need to know. We need answers.
Well, Eric has given us at least 150 different people that he claims are the first three-pointer. I feel it's a dispute.
You do. Chris Ford.
I feel that by the next podcast episode, now that he's mastered the guitar riff, Eric's next thing will be to continue his ongoing quest to find out who scored the first NBA three-pointer, because it is still in dispute to this very day. Who could it be, Bobbles? What person could be responsible? It's lost to the sands of time. It's absolutely crazy. It's just nuts. I bet it's hidden inside of the Kiss song that they played during the AFL Grand Final. They probably tried to. Gene Simmons was probably trying to tell us.
Chris Ford.
And we don't know who it is, and we may never know. We may never know for sure.
It was Chris Ford.
Anyway, so on that bombshell, we're right on time. So thank you, gentlemen, for this scintillating conversation. And Eric's scandal has continued, bringing confusion into this first 3-pointer thing. He named at least 10 people today. I think Reggie Lemonin was one of them. I think the Kool-Aid Man.
He's even got the one up there for first 3-pointer. I think it says it. We just can't see it. It's up there in the corner over his shoulder. It's got the one, and I think there's an ST and
clues are all around us.
Chris Ford.
Listen, I prefer Chris Chevy myself, but look, to each their own. That's fine. Regardless, on that bombshell, this is another episode of this. We'll be back for another episode subsequently. It is available on an audio version in Spotify, AI Spotify, and you can listen, and where you can also listen to, I believe, in a thing called Love by the Darkness. Just letting y'all know. And podcast apps, so you can leave a comment on there. If you check it out on the YouTube one, we appreciate if you hit the like button. If you got a comment or question, if it's a good comment or question, maybe we'll bring it up on the next episode. So that's a lot of fun. You can find Eric at Sanderson.or on Instagram, where you can tell him to please tell us once and for all who the first NBA 3-pointer was, instead of making up all these ridiculous names, these lies. Just endless. This propaganda will not be accepted. I, for one, will not accept it. You shouldn't accept it either. Do not tolerate this. Ask for the truth. Ask for the truth from this man. Bobbles and Ball Cards, you can find him on his YouTube channel of the same name, and also 540 Flips, where you can find him there as well. And are you gentlemen still going to be continuing on that podcast as well, the reseller one?
Yeah.
Perfect. Can you give us the name for it one more time?
It's the Resellers Locker Room Podcast.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And like I said, their information will be included in the description. And the additional thing, more videos on the channel, live streams on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, where we will get to the bottom of this first NBA 3-pointer thing, because frankly, I'm tired of this ambiguity. I am sick of it, and I am going to do everything in my power to make sure we find out what the truth is and get to the bottom of it once and for all. I will not let Eric gaslight us into these ridiculous lies that he continues to tell. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. I may have muted him so that he can stop sharing this propaganda. I refuse to allow it. But at least we know that Eric can do a guitar riff. So his guitar riff is pretty solid.
He's got skills.
And we lost his connections. It's absolutely the worst. Bubbles, this is such a sad ending to what was otherwise a great episode. It was going so well right up until that point. Isn't it crazy? I hope you're happy with yourself, Eric. Took us to a dark, dark place. Not quite the darkness, but you took us to a dark place nonetheless. Anyway, that's it for us. We'll be back on the next episode. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate that as well. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.